Hi, Ms. Del Grasso. I'm David Lesnowski. I'm the counselor at this particular school. I know you sent me an email wanting me to get to know your son, observe him a little bit because I know you had some concerns. And I just wanted to tell you a little about my findings, and we can have a conversation as to some of my observations and any questions that you may have. Is that okay?
Oh, that's absolutely perfect. Thank you
Okay.
for giving me this time.
Wonderful. Now, I've observed your son Ethan for approximately about 2 weeks because I know I received that email, and I would just like to give you just a background report as to some of what the teachers have said, and just me talking to him one-on-one. That's some things that I found out. One of the things that I definitely did ask him is who he's friends with at lunch, who he hangs out with most of the day when it comes to recess, because if it wasn't for lunch or recess or the bus, we wouldn't really have a job. That's where a lot of things occur, and it's where a lot of things that aren't very structured. And he mentioned that he hangs out with Henry. He mentions that he hangs out with James. And I got the pleasure of seeing these boys together. Ethan's brought them into some of our individual sessions because they're allowed to have a friend. They're allowed to be, together to discuss things. And we rainbow loom just to get some conversation going. And these are very bright boys, very well behaved, very intelligent, and much like your son is, as I got to meet him, he's very precocious. He's very talkative. One teacher actually referred to him as the mayor, primarily because he is somebody that everyone wants to get to know. It's almost infectious. So, and I spoke with Mrs. Martin, and she said academically, he is pretty much above everybody in the class. He's very helpful. He's very confident in his answers. Very, very profound vocabulary. So there's really no academic issue there. And that kind of prompts me to ask you a question. What prompted you to email me and have me observe your son?
I had my first parent-teacher conference with this being a new teacher in Ethan's life. And I mean, she said all the same things that you've explained to me, said all, how bright he is, academically where he stands, but she stuck with one issue that kind of triggered something that I wanted to find out more. She kept saying his focus, redirection. She had to keep redirecting him every 5 to 10 minutes. And in the conversation, we did a parent-teacher conference over the phone due to my schedule and the time slots that were available. And in the phone conversation, she just kept saying his focus, and that's something you need to take to his pediatrician. Now, I'm not a dumb person per se, so when you're mentioning pediatrician, you're mentioning something of a medical issue. Now, in this day and age, there's numerous medical issues that you would send a school-age child, to the doctor for. It was one that came to mind was when she stuck with focusing and redirection is ADHD. So before I go and I take care of this matter in a medical capacity, I wanted to know the next level up, her being his teacher, what does the guidance counselor see? What can the guidance counselor observe from my son to see where the focus is? It's a lot of issues. He's completely different from me at home. I get him after a long, we'll say 12-hour day. He leaves the house at 8 o'clock. We get home by 6.
So he's enrolled in the aftercare program,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
He is a product of a single parent. It's just me and him. So it's a lot of the times we're on the go constantly. And, after that long, long day, he's relaxed. He's very calm, very collected. He just wants to mellow out on the couch, veg. So I don't see the constant redirection. I see a tired, lazy little boy who doesn't want to do his house chores when he gets home after a long day at school.
No, he's a man. We generally don't like
They're
to do
all
more
alike,
work.
young
We're
or
all
old.
alike. We're all alike. I mean, 34 years old, they still do the same thing. And it's interesting that you say that because of what I've observed, just from just observing him in class setting, there really aren't too many instances of redirection per se. However, like with any particular long day or anytime you're in a group with your friends, there are some moments where there's a little bit of distraction. Now, distraction could be many things. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's anything serious because a 6-year-old boy is a 6-year-old boy. And there are a lot of times where, attention could be diverted. It could be something as simple as something going on in the class. It could be something as simple as looking out the window on a nice day, or even if snow flurries or, a storm is happening outside weather in school. I didn't notice anything that was particularly out of the ordinary, but again, Mrs. Martin did acknowledge to me that there, were some instances where she had to kind of rein him in and reel him in. And the questions I have for you at home is, are there any things like at home where there are instances where you may have to, when you give him an instruction, do you have to reel him back in? Is his focus diverted?
I can ask him to go clean his room up, and you may think he's cleaning his room, but he's playing Spider-Man with his blankets that he was supposed to be folding.
Okay.
But then again, I consider that somewhat normal behavior for a kid. They're always going to let their imagination run them wild, but I don't want to be that parent that's going to be like, well, my son, that's normal. He doesn't do that. I don't know all the signs to look for. Is my son impatient, and does he require a lot of attention? Yes, he requires a lot of my attention. It's where I'm going, what I'm doing, who I'm with, where did I go, and it's a matter of me walking up the stairs in our home. He's right there with me. He does not like me anywhere but right by him. I don't know if that's a medical issue. I think that's just a issue of he's kind of looking for attention. So I try and give him as much attention as I can at home. I want to make sure the dynamic at home and the dynamic in school work cohesively together, because I can't be in school during the day to know what's going on, and obviously you can't be in my home at night to know what's going on. So we need to work together, because I want to give my son the best chance he has, and if this is a problem that may hinder him in the future, I want to nip it in the butt and give him the assistance that he needs to succeed. Okay. I want him to keep excelling academically. I want him to stay above the grade, because as a parent, I know my son can do it.
Okay. Because academically, yes, he is doing very well. And he is very, very well spoken. He learns quickly. He definitely grasps things very quickly. At least that's what I've gotten from Miss Martin in the times that I wasn't observing. And the thing that we like to do here is, because we are the eyes and ears when the parents are not here. We are almost like a surrogate parent. And that's why it's very important that you said that you want this to be a collaborative environment, if I understood you correctly.
Yes.
Okay, so, and that's what I like to do. That is ultimately like what I like to do. I like to make sure that everyone is abreast of the situation, so there's no new situations that pop up. There's no new instances that blindside you. And that's just one of those things where, it's a situation where reinforcing the stuff at home is very important. It's a very necessary thing to do. And I think a lot of the times parents aren't necessarily informed of how to reinforce certain things at the home, certain things that the teacher is doing. For example, I noticed that one of the accommodations that Miss Martin made, anytime he isn't attentive, for those couple seconds, he doesn't disturb the class, which is a good thing. But there are times where he does like to draw. He does like to draw at the home, correct?
Yes.
Art.
This is something that he has taken a greater focus on, learning more to draw, doing more tactile things. And I've been trying to nurture that, because his fine motor skills, even as a baby, weren't always the greatest. He's doing a lot of hand tricks, a lot of this new magic tricks with the hand, and making different figurines with the hands, with the movements, and I have no idea what I'm doing, so God bless YouTube. But I'm trying to nurture that, because that's improving just a fine motor skill that I knew he lacked in as a child. It was just, he just wasn't very tactile. Okay. And more he's becoming more tactile. And I know she mentioned to me in the parent-teacher conference that, a lot of the times to keep my son in check while she's attending to the other students is she'll let him draw.
Yes, I did notice that. And she does give him extended time. And it's just one of those things where, a lot of times in this day and age, there's an overwhelming sense of information. Especially with a school environment, because he is in a T1 program. So it's a big transition from kindergarten to first grade. And it's kind of that that overlap period. And in this case, with the, inattention, it's a situation where we rein him in with a little bit of extra things that he likes to do. So it could be a situation where if he does have a long day and he, let's say he doesn't get his homework done, which hasn't been a problem, but, there are some days where he might bring home a blank piece of paper and have to do it. Sometimes may be necessary to, give him that 5-minute break to do something that he enjoys doing, let him settle in. And that way you can focus and refocus, because it seems to be working with this Martin where he sits next to her, he's in the front of the classroom, and he gets that period, and when she says, time's up, he's perfectly respectful. Sometimes he pushes it, maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds off task where he's not really listening, but very quickly he comes back into the fold. And, that's one of those things that possibly could help in the house. Has he been a problem in terms of,
I will say it is a drastic difference in my son from last year in kindergarten to this year in T1. In kindergarten, he did not go full day.
Okay.
It was only a half day, and he was afternoon kindergarten, which I think did not have the best effect on him because he was ready to play. Okay. The bus picked him up at probably 11:30. School was done at 3:15. It wasn't really a full-fledged day, so there was no tiring him out, running him down. And I believe with the classroom size being larger than in the norm, his classroom size now is only 11 to 12 kids. Kindergarten was 25.
Okay.
And that was just afternoon, and there was 2 teachers. And I don't think his teacher last year had the patience for his strong will.
Okay. And well, that is one thing that Mrs. Martin did say. He's very strong-willed, very authoritative in certain instances, which is a good thing. He exhibits a lot of those leadership
He wants
qualities.
when he wants it. And I'm also breaking a habit of a spoiled child because I work 40 plus, if not more, hours a week.
Okay.
There was a period of time where I did feel guilty, so I tend to spoil my son. Now, I pulled the reins back a lot. He's not as spoiled. And it's a work in progress, but I just kind of want to redirect him and put his focus academically and keep his interest in school as opposed to video games or whatever else.
Perfectly understandable. And that's just one of those things where the good news is that the academic is not full. He is very, very keen on getting the homework done on time. And I'm assuming that you help him with the homework because it's always done on time.
His homework is done a lot of the times in aftercare because
Okay.
they go into the homework room. But if there are pieces that come home, we do them at home. And then there's work that I reinforce at home. And when I go through his folder, there's always things go over, family time, documents that we can do in our personal time together. And I just try and reinforce any spelling tests, any math problems, so on and so forth.
Good. That really is good. And it is showing, so you're doing a commendable job.
Thank you.
It's one of those things, because I did notice that, our time is running low, but that's why I wanted to meet with you, just so I can update you on how things are going. You okay? Okay. And basically what I would like to ask you is it a situation where you would feel completely uncomfortable with me meeting with Ethan more and to talk with him?
No, I would like to see more observation just to see, wait till he gets a little more comfortable with you,
Okay.
and then take it from there.
Now, are there any issues or anything going on at home that maybe you'd like me to speak with him on? Oh, you look like you have to sneeze. Is everything okay? Okay. Pause it.